As an artist and a teacher, one of the things I've been thinking about for many years, because I have painted abstractions and I have taught abstract painting, is the relationship between abstraction and music. When you think about it, music is probably more universal, it's probably more accepted and almost biologically elemental and deep within our being. Visual art is accessible, is fun, is popular, but at the same time, abstraction in visual art, when it's not a copy of something, can for some people these days be a little bit perplexing, or at least confusing in terms of how you arrive at quality judgments. And just a little discussion, a little contemplation of the relationship of art, abstract art, and music might be a bit of a setting of the stage for this assignment. In other words, music itself, and especially just for the sake of argument, instrumental music, let's put lyrics aside for now, instrumental music is a structure and unfolding of sounds and silences, of different qualities of sounds, durations of sounds, either composed consciously or often in a kind of, these days with jazz, often in a kind of communication, conversation rather, where things are done intuitively. If you think about music as not being a soundtrack of the real world, think of music as especially instrumental music again, as being just pure physical perception at some point, sound waves through the air. You have to say it's abstract. You have to say that particular art form, music, is absolutely free floating and not necessarily a depiction, a kind of picture of, a sound picture of the real world. It may be inspired by that. It may be evolving from impressions in the real world. But instrumental music is pretty much abstract. And you turn to color and visual art, form and visual art. Let's say, to keep it manageable, painting in visual art, where you've got abstract painting, whether it's decisive and architectural and hard-edged, or whether it's a kind of emotional gushing brushstroke. You've got similar sorts of presentations of pure form and color and texture, and a kind of physical presentation that might be somewhat related to the pure sounds and impressions that you get from music. Now, I talked about the relationship of visual art and music in terms of color. There are actually terms in music that almost correspond to certain aspects of visual art, and one of them is indeed color. In music, to the extent that I am familiar with it, timbre is the physical quality of the voice or the instrument, so that there is, in musical terms, color and timbre are very close, and therefore, you can think about the very physical, vibrational quality of a given instrument as its color, as its color expression. Other things might be rhythm and tempo, the idea that a kind of time-lapse cadence or movement or division goes across a given artistic surface, a painting surface, a collage surface, especially in abstraction, that there's a kind of movement and speed. When you think of painting, if you think of the abstract expressionist, you obviously think of a kind of slapdash, impassioned application of paint that the brushstroke might, in the instance of an artist like Franz Klein, abstract expressionist, where the big black house painting brush scale gesture goes slapping right across the canvas itself, and more so follow in different directions. So think about music, because it is time-based and therefore moving, whether it's slow or fast, violent or meditative. it's moving and transforming in time, and therefore, you need to hint at that. You need to express that. You need to find some way that through line, breakup of form, and repetition of form, especially, you end up with a kind of sequence, a kind of progression that implies a movement through time. Other things are like harmony and melody. Harmony to me, and this is a kind of non-musical, non-professional interpretation. Harmony, would be a kind of, in design sense, a kind of field, a kind of totality of the design that fits together in a gestalt, in a kind of harmony, a kind of defining with the definition of the word, a kind of unity, a kind of manner in which these things fit together and create a whole that's not disruptive, that's not necessarily antagonistic. The other thing might be melody. Melody to me, would be that signature phrase of music, that sort of repetition, twinkle twinkle little star, that goes across the music and therefore, forms a kind of figure, a kind of subject, a kind of little character that repeats itself through this environment of the harmony. There are other things like counterpoint and inversion that get a little bit more technical. Counterpoint as being two phrases of music sort of put slightly off center with one another and playing themselves through time. Inversion is literally, in a compositional sense, it doesn't happen very often, but very often, it doesn't happen very often, but enough times to make it identifiable. Composers will take a line of music, the notation, and simply turn it upside down and see what happens in terms of a musical phrase that relates to the rest of the composition. Now, what you've been viewing here are student works. Student works, each one of them developed and created in relationship to a given piece of music, which they themselves have chosen. I hesitate to present the audio because of copyright issues, but I think you can see from this string of examples the musicality, the movement, the translation of something that seems to be, even though it's abstract, even though it's not duplicating familiar lyrics, a design, a creation, a work of art that is undeniably musically oriented. You should see this final assignment as a kind of summing up. It's not officially nor mathematically a final exam, but it is an attempt, it is a situation whereby you can bring what you've been dealing with through the semester, with all the issues and all the different assignments, from color to form, illusions, etc., and wrap them around the subject, the focus of your particular, very personal, very individual choice of a piece of music. And this takes a certain imagination. I mean, it's not a forced imagination. It's not a searching out recipes that this color and that shape equals that particular kind of note or musical phrase, but it is a kind of empathy that you're bringing to the music itself, and finding for you, and hopefully, I think if you are powerfully moved by it, other people will be. So for other people too, a kind of immediate correspondence and equivalence, a kind of emotional extension of what the music is. So above all, be inventive, imaginative, take some risks, and have fun.